Hello, I'm Antonia and today I will present to you the work I did during my internship at Bloomberg about identifying notable news stories. This work was done with my mentors from Bloomberg's AI group, Giorgio and Edgar. The popularity of news platforms and the increase in citizen journalism have led news to increase in volume and coverage. For example, each day, Bloomberg ingests nearly 2 million articles from 125,000 curated news sources around the globe, in addition to the thousands of articles written by the company's 2,700 reporters and analysts. As a result, readers get overwhelmed by the huge amount of news they have to catch up. They also frequently miss out on news due to the heavy filtering. To help readers navigate through the enormous amount of news available today, it is crucial to develop systems that can filter out the noise and adapt to the dynamic information needs of the consumer. In this presentation, we focus on the problem of identifying notable news from a stream of news stories. To solve this problem, we use structured representations of news stories, and we view the problem as a ranking task. More specifically, we define our task as ranking news representations against notable events. We do so by training learning-to-rank models on various textual and semantic features. We finally construct the crowdsourcing task to collect the golden truth and validate our approach. Due to the highly condensed language used in news, existing news processing systems generate well-defined structured representations from their content. In this work, we represent a news story as an extended triple, which is a subject, a predicate, and an object, together with temporal and location metadata. For example, this news story reports on a suicide bomber who killed people by detonating a vehicle full of explosives at a military camp in Gao, Mali. When extracting the structured news representation from this article, we are interested in modeling the information about who did what to whom and where and when this happened. The triple is consistent of the two actors and the action, while the metadata contains information about when and where this action occurred. We use the notation Q to define a notable event composed by textual information, and we use C to define a candidate news story in a triple format with metadata. Formally, given a query and a stream of candidates, we aim to rank its candidate by its relevance to the query. We use 3 levels of relevance for a pair. The pair is considered as very relevant when all information from the query is included in the candidate triple. It is considered as relevant when some of the information matches, and it is considered not relevant otherwise. Our method works in 3 steps. First, we create meaningful pairs of queries and candidates. Secondly, we extract various textual and semantic features, and finally, we train learning-to-rank models. In the first step of our method, we create all possible pairs when the query and the candidate satisfy 2 conditions. First, they must have the same publication date, and they should also have at least one word in common. We extract 3 types of features. The first type of features take into account the shape of the query or the candidate by, for example, measuring their size. The second type of features use syntactic scores such as TF-IDF and BM25 to evaluate the similarity of the pair. And finally, in the third type of features, we use entity linking to evaluate the semantic similarities of the linked entities mentioned in the query and the candidate. You can find more about the features in the paper. We have experimented with a couple of learning-to-rank approaches, and we saw results from RankBoost, LambdaMart, and Random Forest. We used 2 independent sources to create our dataset, one for the notable queries and one for the candidate triples. For the queries, we use a list of notable events ordered chronologically and curated by Wikipedia. For the candidate triples, we use a list that contains all kinds of news, notable or not, that might or might not exist in the query source. As described before, we built the pairs from these 2 sources. The final dataset contains a bit fewer than 10,000 pairs. In order to evaluate our methodology and obtain golden truth, we used a popular crowdsourcing platform and asked annotators to classify each pair of candidate query by its relevance. For each pair, we used majority voting with at least 3 annotators. When the task was completed, the inter-annotator agreement was more than 96%. The final result was highly skewed, with only 4% of the pairs to be labeled as very relevant or relevant. As mentioned before, we used RankBoost, LambdaMart, and Random Forest for the ranking task. To show that the entity linking is meaningful, we experimented with using subsets of the available features. Here we will show results from when using all features except the entity-related ones, and using only 2 of the baseline features. We first split our dataset in training, validating, and testing sets. More information can be found in the paper. The results of our validation, shown in the figure on the left, shows that with random forests we achieve the best results. The table on the right shows the results on the testing set. We observe that random forest is the best performing model for the 3 feature sets. We achieve an improvement of 9 percentage points on mean reciprocal rank score when using all features except the entity-related ones compared to the baseline, and 7 additional percentage points of improvement when we add the entity-related features. Finally, we show some qualitative results of the query and with the best and the worst normalized discounted cumulative gain scores. We first show the query with the best performing score. It is about an attack that caused the death of children in India. The top 1 candidate triple seems to be very relevant to the notable news. We also show the query that achieved the worst score. The query is about a drug lord from Mexico that was extradited to the US. Below, we show the highest ranked candidate, which is not the most relevant one in this case. However, the most relevant one appears 9th in the ranking. For future work, we plan on linking the entities to external knowledge graphs, which will help with the cases similar to the above, where we will have the information that Narendra Modi is the current Prime Minister of India. To sum up, in this presentation we described our work on identifying notable news stories. Check out the paper if you want to learn more about it. This work was part of my internship project at Bloomberg. If you are interested in working on these topics, Bloomberg is currently hiring. And feel free to contact me with any comments or questions you might have. Thank you.